Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Linux Lads. We are back. I am Shane.
I'm Connor.
And I'm Mike.
And as usual, we have a bunch of random shite to talk about.
It's very true.
Don't we, guys?
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll hand it off to you guys. What's first on the agenda?
So there's the first thing on the agenda is the pleasure of dealing with small projects and why we need people forking, fragmenting, and generally doing whatever the fuck they feel like. Mike, I think you put this one in the show notes.
Yeah, because I get always and you know, when I'm 10 minutes into this rant, feel free to stop me, but I always get a bit upset when people say, oh, you shouldn't be going off doing your own thing, you should contribute to this bigger project because there is a fragmentation and we never have good software. All this bullshit. I don't know when was the last time I heard it, but it was about 2 weeks ago, and I have only the best experience with smaller projects. Like, I'm not saying LibreOffice is great, right? The Linux kernel, amazing. But there is a lot of space for people thinking, well, I might want to make my own, insert your project here, and I'm just gonna go for it, you know, despite the fact that there might be a big foundation already doing the thing. This whole thing was sparked by basically about last Thursday. I was working on something at work, and I was using Visidata, which is my Linux boner from 2 episodes ago, and something didn't work. There's a key combination that was meant to copy something, and it didn't work as expected. So I found the GitHub page, I submitted an issue or bug or whatever. And the guy who makes this is in Seattle, and I'm in Dublin, so that's what, about 10 hours from each other. He replied pretty much within the time frame, saying, yeah, okay, well, this is the workaround, this is going to be fixed in the next release. Is there anything else I can do for you? And I'm like, wow. Similar experience with another project, I think it was Qt Browser, where I submitted the bug report through the automated bug reporting, either in KDE or in the Qt browser, and the guy comes back pretty much instantly saying, "I saw your bug report. That's because of this. This is how you can help it." So, you know, you submit a bug report, or something happens with LibreOffice, and they already have a 2 million, and I'm picking on them. I'm not actually picking on them, but it's just the biggest project that springs to my mind. They already have a lot of issues to deal with, and despite the fact that there's a lot of developers, they already are very, the bugs, they already are overloaded with bugs. And also, if you found a bug in LibreOffice, chances are that probably someone has already come across it, and you might be adding on to it, but you're not making as much difference. With these smaller projects, not only your bug gets taken care of more instantly, but you also have a direct communication with the developers, and then they tend to be very helpful, and you have a very good feeling that you helped a project and that you do something that makes a difference. So yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
One thing that I will say is a slight devil's advocate of dealing with small projects versus dealing with larger projects. You're correct when you're saying that in LibreOffice, whatever bug you're coming across, invariably 2 people or 10 people have already submitted the bug to that. But in that instance, is not the submitting a bug that they're completely unaware of. Obviously they're aware of if 10 people have already submitted the bug. What's useful in that sense is the frequency of the bug, or maybe you're on Ubuntu 16.04 still, and all the bug reports have been coming from 18.04, and then you submit the bug report. That what could be unique in your instance is 18 or 16.04 users are also experiencing this bug, or 16.04 on Unity are also experiencing this bug, and we thought it was just limited to the 18.04 GNOME version or something like that.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm not saying it's great that we have big open source projects. I just get this is me in defense of the smaller ones, not opposed to the big ones. It's just sometimes people think that it's fragmentation of efforts, and that already small community has our already small community has not enough developers for small projects. But my experience is to the contrary. Shane, do you have any thoughts on this?
Not really. I mean, I've never really gone so far as to submit a bug report or email the maintainer of anything. You know, I can only speak from the perspective of someone who's dealt with larger companies. Generally, what I'll tend to do if I encounter a problem in any software I'm using is either just ignore it or work around it, or look online for a hack or a fix. So I don't know. It seems to me that other people are far more proactive in getting in touch with the maintainers or the developers than I would, and I think the vast majority of people would probably fall into that bracket. They would just kind of either deal with it or just or just find a workaround of some kind.
My instance, my familiarity with submitting bug reports was mainly actually on my Android phone. Whether the app itself was open source or not, it was the direct feedback for the developer, and the fact that they made it really it's the making it easy for the user to submit a bug report. If a lot of the times when it's happened is been effectively automated, there's been minimal user input, is the case of, oh no, something has happened, and a pop-up is come up on the screen saying, do you want to submit this to the developer? And you say yes, and then you either, if you've set a default email app on your phone, then it automatically switches over to that, or it will give you the option of saying, do you want to use Gmail, do you want to use Proton Mail, whatever. You pick one, and then it says, and then it just literally pastes in the raw freaking logs of what happened into the email, and you can just say, yep, send. Off it goes. And invariably I've actually got an email back saying, yeah, the reason for that is this, and it'll be fixed in the next version, or that's interesting, can you send me more information in relation to that? So they tend to be quite good, but that make it easier for the user to submit the bug reports is a lifesaver, I would say. It creates more information for the developer, and it allows them more opportunities to fix the bugs.
Yeah, I can only agree with you what you're saying. I've been in situations before where I wanted to submit a bug report, but it was basically, go to this website, make an account, confirm it with your email, then there's going to be a CAPTCHA, and then maybe you should look through our interface that is horribly clunky and unreadable to see if there was this bug already submitted by somebody else. And once you go through all of this, you have to fill out a form, basically, that's asking for stack traces and stuff like that, where I'm not even sure what they are talking about. So making it easy is very important, because at some point I just persevered because I wanted to see what's going to come next. But I don't think this kind of horrific experiences do anybody any good. And I would go as far as saying that maybe automated reporting, maybe even like chronological, even when there's no crash, to vendors that you trust. For example, I would have no problems if my system sent data periodically back to Canonical, or the people who make KDE Neon, or the KDE people themselves. I would go as far as saying that this, at least for me, would be a good thing. I know there are privacy concerns, but we are not talking about Google here. We are talking about open source projects that we select and install on our PCs. And I think that the easiest it is for everybody involved, the better the software is going to be in the end. I
would agree with that, as long as it's opt-in rather than opt-out.
Oh yeah, of course.
And also the fact that it's just an automatic paste of the logs into your email client of choice, is all the information is there that the developer requires. There's no back and forth of what operating system are you on, what desktop environment are you on, blah 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 blah, what's your hardware in terms of the very basic amount of, is he using this graphics card or blah blah blah, or is he using an Intel integrated graphics card, like if is the graphical crash in relation to a graphics driver or something like that. All of that information could literally be just the log of he's using 1604, using KDE, he's using an NVIDIA graphics driver, this version of the graphics driver, blah 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 blah, and just send that off to the developer, rather than the developer going back saying, okay, cool, I know you're on 1604, but are you using NVIDIA or using AMD? And rather than the back and forth of that, the troubleshooting is a lot easier, I would imagine, from a developer point of view, when it's just literally just a template, and the template is auto filled in, and the user just literally says, grand, it's coming from this email address, it's sending to that email address, send.
Yeah, I think it's there is a lot of space for improvement, but in my experience, bug reporting in Linux has improved drastically in the last few years. I think it might something to do with the fact that a lot of developers are now also using Ubuntu desktop or some other Linux distribution desktop, and they so we have more users than ever, and they are interested in things working correctly.
I think just to do a little smooth segue, because we love those. So next thing we have here is should communication with users and media be a #1 priority for larger open source projects? So should users and contributors and all the rest, anyone with a vested interest in the project, is communication expected and openness from the project?
It would be for me, for example, because I think that even if nothing's happening, say for example your project is ticking over fine, there is this case of me and XFCE where I periodically discover that XFCE still exists, for example, because I don't come across any communication from them. So for me, it's like, yeah, even if nothing's happening, it's still good to refresh your existence in people's memory. And then when something does happen, for example, your servers go down, you are under DDoS attack or something like that, I think obviously the impulse is first start fixing what's wrong and screw everything else. But I don't think that's a good idea. I think equally important is, for example, your servers are on fire, well, tweet about it so that people know, and then keep communicating every hour if there's a real emergency, and if there is a long-term problem with your project, go and post blog posts, do interviews, whatever it takes. It's, for example, there is a case of I think it's Linux Mint, where the lead just doesn't like interviews, and it's kind of fine because they never had any problems. But imagine if something bad happened to the project, technically, and they had to deal with it. Suddenly they don't have the communication, and users who rely on their project for work and whatever other purposes, they need kind of communication. They need to know that the project, what's happening with the project, no matter what is actually happening.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. I've come across some good examples of communication from certain projects. Like, one thing that springs to mind is Monero, the privacy-focused cryptocurrency. So just to give you a tiny bit of 10-second history, Monero is like a privacy-focused crypto coin where you can't see, the ledger isn't visible, so you can't see where a coin went from one address to another address. Where you can with Bitcoin, you can see the entire history of the transaction in the blockchain, but you can't do that with Monero. So, and I believe they're an open source project, but I'm not entirely certain. But they're excellent at communication. They communicate almost too much. So yeah, it's kind of refreshing to see, but like I suppose it's in the nature of their product. You know, it's you know, it's an exchange of value. It's a currency essentially. I don't know if you would class a cryptocurrency as an actual currency, but you know, it's an exchange of value. It's a financial instrument. So you know, it's good that they're communicating and, you know, telling you what they're doing on a regular basis.
Yeah, certainly I would agree with that. It's good to have updates out in the open. For example, our servers are on fire and so on and so forth. But there is certainly there's a balance to be had in relation to that. Is it the case of don't be necessarily spamming Twitter every hour, well, depending on the severity of the topic, or if it's just a monthly kind of or weekly just update on their blog or something like that, then that's communication is key. But I can certainly understand from the type of person that wants to set up their own Linux distribution, or type of person who wants to set up their own software project or something like that, isn't necessarily the marketing or communication genius. In other words, the skill points skills are not necessarily the strong point of the personality that is going to say, this is a really technical piece of software. I enjoy the challenge of writing that piece of software or developing my own version, my own fork of that piece of software. So as projects grow, they might take on marketing or communication staff.
Mike?
Yeah, I think sometimes marketing experts and engineers don't always get along very well, because one is about generalization and communication and feelings, and the other one is a precision science. And I think there are clashes sometimes, and sometimes the engineers don't think that marketing is important, but I think it is, because obviously measured marketing, don't let them do whatever they want, because that's just crazy. But you need, this day and age, if there is a project open source and maybe fully community and not backed by company, I'd still expect that it has a nice website, maybe a .io domain, all the hipster stuff that we are used to, and maybe some nice videos with good jingles. It's if you don't have that, then your project might be like technically sound or even excellent, and maybe it could like really help the world. But I think without that kind of without communication and marketing, and those two are not always the same, I think without that, a project is not realizing its full potential, to sound like a complete douchebag.
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, it's always been, the sales and marketing people make the promises, but the developers keep them. So, it's a fine line. I mean, it's basically, is everyone on this? It depends on the project as well, and what sort of thing it is, and who it's useful to. But yeah, it's a fine line to tread.
Certainly, it depends on the approach, and some approaches vary from project to project. I'm sure Canonical has sales and marketing people, but it seems to be that deliberately, maybe it's a top-down decision of we're kind of marketing ourselves as almost a community project, even though we're a full company with a lot of employees, like 100 plus employees, whatever their figure is. It seems to be that it's all from a community point of view. In other words, the community manager is nearly as important, if not more important, than whatever their sales or marketing department is. I'm not saying that they don't have a sales and marketing department, but it seems to be that that is not doesn't seem to be their public face. Maybe they have a sales department that deals exclusively with enterprise, and their marketing and everything is geared towards the enterprise market. But certainly in terms of the desktop user point of view, it seems to be all community, and we're part of the Linux community. And I mean, John O'Bacon used to be their community manager over there, and he since has spinned out, and now he does a community or a community consultancy business. That's what his business is, and he's kind of dealt with a few people, including GitHub and a few others. But it seems to be that is the bread and butter of projects like Canonical, even though, as I said, they're a fully commercial for-profit company backing Ubuntu. But it seems to be that they have a kind of a spin of we're part of the community, which seems to be working quite a bit.
But I don't think it's a spin, because I think that without the community, the word they chose, Ubuntu, means something like I am because you are, or I am because we are, something like that, right? I think in their case, like, they would be literally non-existent without the community. And I think they realize that. And I think, and I don't want to sound too much as a Canonical shell, but I do like the company, even though it's been controversial. But I think controversy is something you cannot avoid, no matter what space you are. As long as you start doing something, you will become at some point controversial to one person or another. And I like what they are doing, and I don't think it's a spin. I think it just is, right? So they are part of the community. They have to be, because they take a lot of energy and a lot of results from the community, and they work with it, and they give it back to the community, and they sell bits of it, and they make money. I think there is, they are fully aware of the importance of community, and they adjust their marketing, for want of a better word, accordingly. And but I don't think it's only Canonical. Look at GNOME or KDE. Whenever they release a new release, they have a new video with a nice voiceover, a nice graphics, and it's telling people what they did. And I think that's important. Periodically informing users that there's something happening, that we are still alive, and that we are making progress.
I believe both those two projects, they don't. The core of the project doesn't have a commercial backer. For example, Canonical backing Ubuntu, where it's there that exclusively. There may be a line share of the contributions, and the are by full-time employees of one company. For example, GNOME, I believe a lot of the contributions coming from Red Hat, because Fedora's and Red Hat Enterprise Linux, this default desktop environment is GNOME, but the GNOME project itself, I think is completely independent of Red Hat. So even though Red Hat may be the major contributor, it's not necessarily it's not commercially backed by Red Hat. Same thing with KDE. I believe it's Blue Systems or something. I may have got their name, and it could be something very similar, as in employees of this company are the major contributors to this project, but the project itself is independent, which you can do in open source.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. Anyway, so I think we'll move on. The next thing we have to talk about here is this is an interesting one. This should set some heads spinning. Do we have a cult of personality in open source and tech in general? So I think this is prompted by a New York Post article. Stop treating tech jerks like gods, which I think was a little bit alarmist and sensationalist and whatever you want to call it for my liking, but and very, very biased and not good journalism. But anyway, this is a topic that is of particular interest to me, because I have gotten into some heated discussions about Elon Musk, because I love Elon Musk and I think he's great, and he's just puppies and candy to me. But he has his problems, but I don't know. From my perspective, I think these people are complex people. People can be assholes, even rich people. Like, you don't have a different set of standards just because you're rich on either side, like positive or negative. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I have say the article might be alarmist, but have you ever met anybody who was desperately in love with Steve Jobs? They get treated. These people do get sometimes treated as gods. Maybe not by us, but there is element of that in society, and with many of the people that you can name as a tech giant leader, and this is more in the commercial sphere than actually open source, but if you think of the most tech companies that you know, any of their leader, you could probably name something against them. So you mentioned Elon Musk. Well, all well and good up until the point when he called somebody a pedophile without being able to back it up, and that for me is okay. Well, until you apologize for that, you're a jerk, and if you don't apologize, you're a jerk forever. Like, obviously he's going through some tough time and everything, but that kind of does it for me, because that could destroy a person's life, being called a sexual offender. That's just not on. The Steve Jobs was basically just a jerk, I think, from what we can hear about him, and he has got. I mean, I've been known to say good things about him because he had good influence on tech. Believe it, at least from my perspective, he took something really shitty, i.e. the smartphone, and he or the company underneath him actually created smartphones that are usable, because before that I don't think most people would be very happy using what was done before, and it was good for the tech people. Might have liked smartphones before the iPhone, but most people definitely didn't, because they were clunky and ugly and slow, and so the jerk kind of changed that, but he's still a jerk for what he did. And again, I'm not exercising some kind of eternal judgment. For me, people make mistakes, and it's okay as long as they apologize. It's just many of these people are not very good at apologizing, like Mark Zuckerberg, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, like, I like Elon Musk. I like what he does. I like the work he's trying to do. I like his ideals, but I don't know. For me, I think sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, I'm not saying, like, some people are like, oh, you should give billionaires a free pass. No, of course not. But like, for me, I separate their work from them as a person. Like, if Elon Musk is a dickhead, then okay, he's a dickhead, whatever. Like, I'm not going to invite him to dinner or anything. Like, I still like the work he's doing. So, and people like completely wank over Jobs all the time because they think he made some fantastic products and fantastic software, even though he probably never touched a line of code himself. He just shouted at people until they did it for him. Anyway, but he obviously had a vision, he obviously had a plan in mind, he obviously knew what he wanted, and he was able to get it out of people somehow. So I don't know, I try to separate the personality from the work. So Elon Musk's eventual goal is like getting people to Mars and getting people off the planet, and promoting renewable energy and stuff. Those are all very admirable goals. So I'm not saying I forgive the shit he's done. Like, yes, he should let his workers unionize, and yes, he should stop getting into dumbass arguments on Twitter about really pedantic shit. Like, of course, yeah, I would prefer if he didn't do all those shitty things, and just get back to doing what he does best, which is like building cool rockets.
Just in relation to Steve Jobs, they just further credence to the fact that he was a complete and utter asshole in certain respects, as in he didn't recognise that he failed to recognise that he had a daughter until it was like even DNA tests like, yeah, you are the father of this person. Then he was like, no, I'm not giving any child payments or whatever. I'm not saying he wasn't a jerk, but it was just the whole thing of he had a vision and he knew how to get how to market that vision, and he knew how to get people to wherever he wanted them. A lot of by a lot of accounts, anytime that he put something on the table, all his engineers were like, "Yeah, well, that's impossible. Like, we will not be able to do that for about 5 or 10 years." And he's like, "No, well, it doesn't matter, you're doing it." I mean, I think for the demonstration for the first Macintosh, where the Macintosh was reading text back to him from stuff that was on the screen in the 80s, apparently the commercial version that was available had half the RAM of the demo model, and that kind of thing of just behind the door, like, we're not quite there yet, but like, just give them the illusion, and we might be there in a year or two, but get the product out the door. Same thing with the first iPhone. Apparently there was a very severe script on the demonstration, as in, click on this, then go to this, click on that, then go to that. Apparently it was like really rigid, and apparently the engineers in the background, behind the scenes, were shitting themselves, saying that phone running that operating system could crash at any second. Like, we know that if you go from A to B to C, it will work. But if for some reason he forgets and he goes from A to C, then it could crash.
Yeah. Like, I had a thought there, I've completely forgotten it, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, what do people want though? I mean, like, do they want progress, or do they want people to be nice all the time? Like, like you can't you can't have both. Like, some people are going to be dicks, and the people with big ideas tend to also have big personalities, and quite often in a negative way. But like, who gives a shit? Like, if they're doing something illegal, by all means prosecute them. If they're doing something immoral, by all means call them on it and question their suitability for their role. But, you know, just getting into a little argument about this or that, or just little soap opera shit, like, it's just, there's bigger things at stake here. So I don't know, like, and what. Another thought that popped into my head, why is it only tech guys who are subject to this? I mean, James Cameron, the film director, people love his films. People are like he's considered one of the most successful film directors of all time, next to like Spielberg. So like, he's a complete asshole from he's an absolute out and out douche. Like, I heard he would like take a nail gun to people's phones on set and like basically like scream at people for 10 minutes straight right into their face. Like, just a horrible human being. But he makes amazing films, in some people's opinion, that bank really well at the box office.
What I don't know anything about these people. That's the thing. That's why. But yeah, of course, there are jerks in every walk of life. But to the previous point that you made, people cannot be at the same time nice and have big ideas. Well, I don't know if that's true, but even if it is, like, you have Linus Torvalds. He's not exactly the nicest person you've ever met, but when he's not being nice, he's not being nice on point. I don't think he's gonna tell you you're a complete asshole. He might tell you that your code is a piece of shit, and that's the kind of difference, you know. He's not being a jerk because he's having a bad day, and he's not being a jerk because I don't know, he's a bit tired and his tummy is empty. He's just basically just giving you out because you did something wrong or you submitted a not good enough result at work. And I think that is the difference, you know. People, I don't know if it's possible to get, like, to become big in the commercial sphere without being a complete moron, but it's definitely possible in open source. Like, how many of the project leads of big open source projects that are very big in our niche, how many of them are douchebags like Steve Jobs?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a small minority, exactly. Like, it's, I don't know if that's the point you were making, Mike, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, but it's kind of immaterial for me. Like, it really is. I try to stay away from opinion and personality and all those intangible things, like, because it doesn't matter to me. I don't care, basically. like someone would send me a message saying, "Oh, Elon Musk said a thing the other day." Well, I don't fucking care. Like, is he still making cars that are electric? Is he still sending rockets with like men in cars to Mars or whatever? That's cool. I want to keep seeing that shit. Like, so I don't really care what he says on Twitter to anyone. Yes, he should let his workers unionize. Yes, he should do all these things just to be nice, and I don't know. But I don't know. It's so ridiculous sometimes. Like, I roll my eyes generally when I hear, "Oh, someone's a dick." But so, like, they're not your friend. Like,
maybe it's just it's a certain personality type that tends to work the way up to becoming a CEO of a company, as in it might reward somebody who's that driven, and people who are that driven invariably do have a certain personality type. I'm not saying it's exclusive. I mean, one example on the extreme end is Larry Ellison from Oracle. Apparently he's a complete and utter fucking asshole. So forget about Steve Jobs. Apparently this guy's like off the scales as being a complete and utter asshole and really bad to work with, but thankfully he's not in the public eye very often. So maybe it's just he knows how to be an asshole in private.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I think anyone who's in the public eye needs to have a certain personality type. I mean, I'm not generalizing. I'm not saying everyone's like that, but I've spoken to people who have been involved in, say, drama, and they say, like, 90% of the people you'll deal with in theatre or drama are just the most narcissistic, awful people. But, like, I don't know. It's just, I think certain personality types come with the territory. It's not ideal. It's not perfect. I don't agree with it. I'm not condoning being a shitty person at all. Like, don't think that for a second. But yeah, I just think, you know, do you want progress? Do you want people with vision to move things forward, or do you want everyone to be nice all the time? Like, you're just not living in the real world. Like, if that's a big stumbling block for you.
Yeah, it's different personality types. The whole idea of there'll always be people who are really good at their job, be it coders or whatever, and that type of job tends to be where you're isolated, as in, even if you're in an office, invariably the developers are like, okay, I'm going to put on headphones and I'm going to listen to music or podcasts for the next 2 or 3 hours, because I'm focusing, I'm concentrating on the task at hand. So invariably they would kind of keep to themselves, versus the marketing people or the people who are talking the phones all the time. They are interacting with people constantly, so they would probably participate more in the whole fun nights out and that whole thing in the office atmosphere. So it's definitely down to the personality type. So but each person is equally valuable to the company.
Yeah, I'm very interested to hear what the general consensus is on this, because people are very divided on this topic. And I actually seem to be in the minority with my opinion from the people I've spoken to, where they're just like, oh, so you're saying they should just be allowed to do whatever they want? No, obviously not. I mean, there's still laws, there's still basic human decency. I'm not saying that has to go away, and I'm not saying you're exempt from that if you have a certain amount of money in your bank account. But, you know, it's just, that's the way it is.
And for the moment, at least, probably the best thing in order to discuss these topics in relation to the episodes is our Telegram group. So if you we'll have the link in the show notes for the Telegram group. Don't think we have an email address at the moment, but
it's 5th episode and we don't have an email address. Like, I should really get on that.
Yeah.
So I think. Mike, do you have any last thoughts on Tech Jerks?
No. No, I think I've said my piece.
Okay. With that, we shall move swiftly on. Targeted advertising and the ability to turn it on or off. You guys enlightened me on this a bit earlier because I thought this was all dealt with through GDPR. Or did I say that right? GDPR?
Yeah, GDPR.
Yes, okay. Because basically I've heard they've hide it behind a lot of dark patterns in their UI, and they, it takes forever to find it. It's hidden behind menu upon menu. What do you think?
Yeah, I had an experience. I was trying to switch off tracking on TechCrunch, and that belongs to Oath, which is a massive company that has got AOL and Yahoo as well as TechCrunch. And it took me a lot of clicking and looking through miles of text to find the dashboard where you can actually switch this off. I'll put the link into the show notes for that. But I think that the EU didn't go far enough with this. They not only should have said, well, you should be telling people when you track them, and you should give them the option not to. They should have also said it should be easy to find, preferably an on-off switch. What do you guys think?
I would agree that it should be easy to find, and literally just before this we were playing around this by going to the TechCrunch. I went on TechCrunch and I was like, it seems to be fine. Maybe my ad blocker is blocking it. And then Mikey made the point of maybe I had previously opted in and completely forgot about it. So what I did was I opened up a private browsing tab and went to TechCrunch again, and you're right, the pop-up did come up. So I might have gone, okay, yeah, fine, whatever, and just completely forgotten about it. Also, it's good to point out that Oath is actually owned by Verizon Wireless, so there's a vested interest in making these things kind of hard and hoovering up all your data.
Yeah, but that's, I think, it is horrendous. But on the other side, there are people who believe that advertising is what pays for the internet, and without advertising and therefore without tracking and all these automated exchanges and stuff, the whole thing is gonna fall apart. I don't agree with that. I think the internet has been here before ridiculous advertising. Maybe things like Facebook would stop working if they couldn't get revenue from selling your data to everybody who asks. But that would be no skin from my hand. And I don't think that the internet is something you can kill just because you turn off something that makes the internet worse, not better. What do you guys think?
I think, you're right. I mean, advertising's not the best way to do things anymore. I would say it's kind of all we have at the moment, but you're starting to see people, like, the appetite for seeing ads is at an all-time low. Like, in the last 10 years, we've seen ad blockers out the door. And you even have, like, traditionally free services now offering, like, paid extras or, paid subscriptions, YouTube Premium being the main one. I think it's a social, I guess, it's a social attitude, I guess. It's a general kind of thing. Like, it'll take a few years for this to become the norm. So a lot of people are so used to just shit online being free. Like, Facebook's always free, YouTube's always free. But you see ads once in a while. But it has gotten to some ridiculous levels with the ads. So I don't know. Yeah, you're right. A new paradigm needs to be found. What that is, I don't know. But yeah, but we're going to start to see advertising being phased out or changing how we see the ads.
I think things are being felt out in the moment as to what is the best model. At the moment, different websites are using different kind of models. The newspaper industry, or some of them are using limited amount of free articles. In other words, we'll give you 3 free articles a day or something, and hey, if you like it, then why don't you pay and then put it behind a paywall? The Irish Times is an example of something that does that, and I actually think that the fact that an unlimited access to the Irish Times is actually worth paying for me. So I think something like €12 a month, you get free digital access, including an app on their phone for as many articles as you can consume. Flip side of that is The Guardian, where everything is free, but they kind of at the end of their articles is saying, hey, we're offering this for free and that's all good, but we have to pay the bills, so why don't you pay $5 a month or $1 a month or whatever it is. All your contributions help, but all our articles will always be free. And the Guardian is doing that kind of approach, which is different from the New York Times or the Irish Times or something like that. And there's also Wikipedia, which does the whole guilty banner at the top and saying, we're halfway to our goal this month, why don't you consider donating to keep our servers running, and that sort of thing. So there's the guilty aspect of it, and there's also the okay, we're giving you two or three articles a day free, and if you want more than that, in other words, if you're a heavy consumer of our service, then pay for it. So there's different models.
Yeah, I have a preference there. A little bit of a memory basically came to me. I read somewhere or heard somewhere years ago about somebody advocating piracy. Basically, the person was saying, when I was 15, my parents were extremely poor. I couldn't afford anything, but because of something like whatever back then, Napster or something like that, the person could download movies and books and anything for free, and it culturally enriched them. It gave them education, because it is this kind of thing that so basically all the culture that exists is important, and without the piracy bit, they wouldn't be able to have that, and they would be poorer culturally for that. Now, relevant to this conversation, the approach of the Irish Times, where they say free articles and then you have to pay or something like that, I understand it from their point of view, but for me it doesn't work very well, because it basically separates the population. There are people who can afford to do that, and they will, and there are people who won't, because €12 a month might be all right for you if it's very important to you to have this news source, but it might be too much for somebody else. Whereas the Guardian approach, it kind of says, well, if you are well off enough to give us some money, then it's up to you how much you give, and by the way, you are paying for the access of people who can't afford to pay. And that's the same with the Wikipedia approach, and I like that approach. I like that let people decide if they can contribute, and if they can, they will also make sure that other people who cannot contribute or don't want to will be able to access it as well, especially for the Guardian, where that's a left-wing newspaper, so they are there for the poorer people as well,
Go ahead, Connor.
Yeah. One thing I was just to follow up on that, I would prefer if the Irish Times did the Guardian model. I preferred the Guardian model. It's just on balance, I went with the Irish Times because I felt that it was kind of it's more Irish news, and maybe more. They try to be more unbiased, whereas the Guardian is like, we know we're left, we don't really hide behind it, whereas the Irish Times at least attempt to be more neutral, and also it's news from an Irish perspective, whereas if it went on the Guardian, it was international news and some or UK news, and because the Guardian is a UK newspaper, and sometimes I like things from an Irish point of view with a bit of international news thrown in as well. But if I would prefer if the Irish Times used the Guardian model. In other words, my €12 a month, sometime I might be out of work, or I might get a pay reduction or something like that, and I only can afford €9 a month or €5 a month or whatever it is, or even €2 or €3 a month if I'm unemployed, but I still want to contribute to the service. the flexibility of me being able to increase or decrease my contribution is valuable. That's why the Guardian and the Wikipedia approach I feel is the best approach. And some people will be able to get it for free because they're backed by the people who can say, this is a really good service, I'm actually going to pay €20 a month for this service, and then that is subsidising the people who cannot afford to pay. I think the flexibility of that is probably the best approach. It's just on balance. I just went from the Irish Times. That was just a personal preference, but I would prefer if they adopted the Guardian payment model.
Yeah, I think I think there's merits to both approaches, because for me, I mean, obviously the Guardian has probably way more readers than the Irish Times. At a guess, I would say it has, just purely because there's more people in the UK than there is in Ireland. Wikipedia has vastly more readers than either of those two, I would say. Like, I don't know, I think different approaches work better for different companies, because the Irish Times probably has a readership of, I don't know, at a guess, I would say 1-2 million people. Maybe a bit more if you take into account the Irish diaspora around the world who want to read it, or Irish people living abroad. So I don't know, in ballpark 2 million, I would say, whereas the Guardian probably has, 10 times the number of eyeballs on it every month. So I don't know. I think it depends how many people are looking at your appeal, and the Irish Times just wouldn't have the same readership, so it mightn't work better. It mightn't work for them, whereas it might work for a larger publication like the Guardian.
Yeah, that might be. Although there are many podcasts and small open source projects who basically live off Patreon as well, where the reach of them is not nowhere near as good even as the Irish Times. But then again, they probably don't have the same expenses, and so it's still it is a very good point.
Yeah, I do like the pay what you want model, though. I think it is a fair way to do things, but it depends,
On that, it's a very good point. Just you talking about the fact that Ireland is a smaller country, it just reminded me of I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and there's one guy who's a car reviewer, but he's an Irish car reviewer, and he's just saying, I have a Patreon, why don't you support my Patreon? And like, he's producing a very good product, as in he does drone footage flying over the cars when he's reviewing the cars and showing the landscape that he's driving around. Really good production. Went on his Patreon, is like €48 a month. I'm just going, because it's a small nation and he probably isn't getting a lot of funds, whereas if it was the same guy doing the same production level over in the States, he'd probably be getting a couple of grand a month.
Yeah, exactly. But the cool thing about platforms like YouTube is that they're international. So no matter where you are in the world, you can see and contribute to that. So I think that's fine. Like I like the Patreon model. Like I think I would, if I was to ever, quit my job and do my own thing, be self-employed, doing some sort of project. That's probably what I'd do. Is set up a Patreon and offer them tangible rewards for how whatever they contribute a month.
Yeah, it's very interesting model, and again, is the pay what you want model is an interesting one. I believe that artists, music artists, musicians have experimented with these kind of things. So their whole attitude is, we're getting fuck all from our sales of our CDs anyway, because of our because of the deals that we have with our record companies, and we're getting fuck all from Spotify anyway. Just bear with me a sec. So, and I think that's a very good point. And they're saying that, we're fine with you basically downloading our music for free, because that creates the word of mouth, creates the so that's going to contribute to our probably you're going to end up buying merchandise which we make more money on, and you're going to when we tour to your city you're going to buy tickets, so a lot of the time they're saying we're making nothing off our sales for CDs anyway, so we're fine with the piracy of that. I'm not saying that piracy is necessarily a good thing, but it's the whole different models in relation to their revenue. And a lot of the band members could be saying, or maybe new bands are saying, yeah, we want to go on with the Patreon model, as in pay whatever we want a month, and this keeps this band going full time.
Yeah. So I think we shall move on. Next news seems like a bit of a doozy. Government enforce encryption backdoors. The Five Eyes nations, which I can't list off myself. Oh, I do know. Five Eyes are moving to force tech companies to voluntarily add backdoors to their products. So I think this is a resounding hell no, but let's discuss.
Yeah, no, these people are morons. Again, an example of politicians from bygone era thinking that tech is magic that can do whatever they want. Like, they don't understand that once you make a backdoor in there, it's not only you who can access it, but also everybody else who has got good technology and knowledge. So they are gonna basically, if they do that, they would, in my opinion, in the opinion of many other people, destroy security for everybody.
Yeah, it's yeah. I'm just like, nah. Yeah, it's if they could explain a bit more about why they need a backdoor.
Terrorism,
like, maybe, but like, yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, but it goes back to this whole argument of, you know, if a guy kills you with a shovel, should shovels be outlawed? Like, it's the person, not the tool. But you know, I think that's a bit of a simplified argument when it comes to technology.
No, I don't even think it's this. Like, no one ever killed anybody with a Slack post, but as far as we know, but it's just. I on one side, obviously, they say it's about public safety and terrorism and crime. On the other side, it's blatantly just them wanting to have more control, and they think, well, we are legally able to open letters if we have sufficient warrants. Why shouldn't we have access to electronic communication? But what they want to do is not being able to open letters. What they want to do is basically make all the envelopes transparent.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like, what I'd really love to know here is so, yeah, you were saying, like, basically they can open a letter. So just to play devil's advocate, what if, say, a criminal gang or a terrorist network are using a communications platform to coordinate, you know, and it's end-to-end encrypted and nobody can see what they're saying, not even the people who run the company, you know, in the case of WhatsApp, it's completely end-to-end encrypted. So you literally have to have that person's phone to see the messages on either end. So, like, what is the counter-argument to people who say, well, how do we catch those people if we can't see how they're communicating? We can't see what they're putting online or how they're sending messages to each other. Like, you know, how do we get the evidence we need to prosecute them or to catch them in the first place? So I think that's an interesting question.
The argument is, no, you don't. Basically, like, on one side, stop pissing people off and invaded other people's countries, and on the other side, in terms of criminals, well, maybe start by outlawing, by making less things illegal in terms of drugs, then maybe put more real police, socially educated police, not just some brutal assholes, but, you know, police and social workers on the streets so that you know when something bad is happening in terms of, for example, abuse. Like they say, well, we need to catch people who share pictures of child porn. Yeah, but you should also attempt to catch the people who actually take the pictures. You know, when the pictures are on somebody's phone, the child has already been abused. You need to, instead of relying on automation, people should rely on real police work and on on social work as well. So it's a hands-on human approach that's missing. And for the third bit, and obviously there is a lot of, well, we won't be able to see what they are doing. No, you won't. And that's just, we are all going to have to live with it. The same way you don't have glasses to penetrate people's houses to see what they are talking, to see and hear what they are talking about. The same way you won't be able to decrypt electronic communication. That's just something we will all have to live with, because the opposite, the alternative, is just not viable. That would mean that all your money is up there to be grabbed, because everything will be able to get hacked. It's that's just it.
I do not know about the legislation in Ireland, whether it's even remotely similar, but the one thing that I do know is over in the States, I believe the like written mail, as in ordinary post, I believe it's completely and utterly illegal to open mail. Whether there's been retroactive things going through the government and saying, yeah, we say that, but like certain 3-letter agencies have been given an exemption for that. I don't know whether relation to, but I think as the laws were set up, I think it's like highly illegal to open other people's mail. Whether 3-letter agencies are exempt from that, I do not know. But that whole thing of once you mail it to somebody, I think that's the modern version of the end-to-end encryption. In other words, the law enforcement, for example, the ordinary police in the States, rather than a 3-letter agency, even if the 3-letter agency has access to the information, I do not know what they do, but they would have to literally go to the house and find the letter if they want to be able to have access to the letter, rather than intercept it in transit. But I'm sure that's probably been watered down quite severely, but to what degree I do not know. Again, but the legislation in Ireland, I do not know.
Yeah, no, to me, this is just pure power grab and laziness, where instead of doing something that the state or any state should be doing, is as in, basically work with the people that you are there supposed to be for. They just want to rely on automation and what is it called? On automation and cameras and whatnot to just have not even security, because this is never going to be secure, to just create security theater where everybody is supposed to feel safe and the politicians are meant to look like they are doing something, but nothing actually works, and it's only making the world worse.
I mean,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, Shane.
Yeah, I think you have a more kind of severe view on these things than I do. But yeah, no, I kind of agree with with what you're saying in general. Like, yeah, they should find a different way. Like, it doesn't, you don't have to snoop on our text messages to fight crime. Like, there's plenty of other ways to do it. Connor, sorry.
Well, what I was going to say is the reason why I'm kind of slightly tinfoil hat and have moved towards more secure communication methods is actually I'm more concerned about the big American companies than I am about the Irish government. I don't think the Irish government are competent enough to be able to snoop into my stuff. I'm more concerned about Google and Oath and Amazon accessing my information. To be honest, the fact that the Irish government could be potentially be monitoring my stuff didn't even enter into my consideration. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm just thinking they're probably not that good.
It's I think there is something to be said about a scale of a country. Like the bigger the country, the bigger the bullies at the top. And I don't think the Irish government might not even be that good, but I don't think they are that interested, because it's a different paradigm. Whereas the people on the top of the administrations in the States and in the UK, they think themselves gods, from what I can see. So.
And
Yeah.
on that point is, for example, for legit reason. In other words, if the An Garda Síochána, which is our police in Ireland, if they say, "Listen, we have this guy, we have this suspected guy, and we want to find out if he's doing terrorism or if he's planning on anything in Ireland," go with me for the example, just for the example. They would have to, because they don't have the local expertise, they would have to go to an outside agency. They would probably have to bring in Interpol or somebody from the UK or from France or something. They do have security experts, and so they would have to bring somebody out of Ireland, bring them in over, say, okay, for this specific reason, we're going to pay you whatever it is, and you're going to go off and you're going to find out the information for us. But I think if such an agency was part of An Garda Síochána, and they would subconsciously would nearly have to justify their own existence. In other words, they're saying, well, we're here, we might as well, hey, that guy looks slightly suspicious, we're going to do a bit of hacking over here. Nah, he's fine. But that kind of thing. Whereas if it's not, if in other words, if you had to escalate up to that point, and if the agency is out, you have to bring in an external agency, that disincentivizes. In other words, you have to really have a legit reason for it, because the Irish government is putting up the bill for getting this outside agency to come in. Whereas if that was internal, and you're saying, okay, we have this internal agency, is costing us whatever 10 million a year, they're like, oh, and then the government are like, well, why are we paying this 10 million a year? You have to justify whatever. And there's like, well, we investigated 10 people this year, or whatever it was. I mean, 2 of them could have been legitimate.
Yeah, like I'd be interested to see it. It's a bit like the statistics I heard on like airport security, like how many actual attacks has airport security ever actually stopped, and I think it's like 0. I think it is like literally 0. I'm open to correction, but yeah, I think when it comes to technical surveillance, I guess, or surveillance through electronic means, like what are the statistics on that? Have they actually, successfully prosecuted or caught anyone based off of a backdoor in some communication app or social app?
Well, I don't know, but I can tell you that back in the day, Al-Qaeda used to smuggle floppy disks. Like, they used to basically have people running with floppy disks or USB disks, I don't know, USB drives, and exchange information that way, which is obviously undetectable by electronic means. And today, the possibility of you going online to certain places and just buy drugs and have them delivered internationally without detection is there. And you hear every now and then that someone's getting busted for that, but it's not on a scale that you would think, and I don't think that giving them more powers to do what they are already doing with this would basically help them catch more criminals. It would be just more surveillance of ordinary people.
Yeah, what you were saying there with Silk Road, for example. To my mind, I would guess that most anybody caught like buying stuff off Silk Road or selling stuff through Silk Road, that they were caught, via normal customs checks or they were already suspects, to the local police. Like, I doubt, surveillance or backdoors helped to catch those people.
I think in the case of the guy who set up the original Silk Road, Ross Ulbricht, I'm not sure, he got caught, or at least there is a case of somebody getting caught because he posted some stupid questions on a forum asking, how do I do this? and yeah, that's just police work. That's not. That's looking for things and analyzing them by a human, not some electronic, not snooping on electronic communication, because he asked in the open. So, and I'd imagine that you are right, because the biggest danger of getting anything sent to internationally is that somebody's gonna look at it at the borders and just open the packet.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a discussion I think we could have for hours upon hours. But I don't know. I'd be very interested to see some more data on this and how effective these so-called backdoors are. I'd love to see them put their money where their mouth is and tell us, could this stop X, Y, or Z, or why is this good for us, other than just giving you, it's just basically like FOMO on an international scale. It's like, we can't see that. It's encrypted. We want to be able to see everything. It's like, come on, guys, let us see. But anyway, I think we shall move on. I think we're getting on time-wise. We shall move on. Does anyone have a boner this week?
Yeah, I always have one. My Linux boner for this 2 weeks period, for this fortnight, is a bit awkward, because it's an application called Arkward, as in it's as you have probably guessed, a KDE application, hence the Arkward name. It's an IDE for R programming. Now, that's a bit niche, I know, but there are basically, if anybody does anything in R, there is RStudio, which is an application written by Java, free and open source to my knowledge, which works. But I'm always looking for something better. And Arkward, even though it's not always stable, you have to basically know what not to press in order not to crash it. But in most of the time, it just gives me what I need, and there's a bit of the fact that it feels better in my desktop, because it's actually basically made in Qt, and it fits in with the KDE theme, and even part of it is that it takes the editing bit is from Kate, or Kwrite from the KDE text editor. But also, it's really nice to see a project doing something despite the fact that there is a massive other project that does the same thing. And I think that in some cases they are even doing it better than the RStudio. So massive shout out to the Arkward project.
Nice. Yeah. Connor, have you got anything for us this week?
Unfortunately, I have no boners this week.
Yeah. I myself, I struggle to come up with anything quite as exciting as the open data government thing we spoke about last time. But yeah, I'm still working on showing people how that's useful. So that's going to be super interesting. Yeah, I think that's it. I think we shall wrap it up, shall we?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yes. So, thanks for listening, as always. You can catch us on our Telegram. All the links and whatnot are on linuxlads.com. If you have an objection to the word boner, let us know. That could be subject to change, I guess.
We'll take it under advisement.
We'll send a memo or whatever. I don't know. Okay, so just to wrap it up, I've been Shane.
I've been Connor.
And I've been Mike.
And we are the Linux Lads. Goodbye.